The holographic display flickered in the dimly lit chamber as thousands of alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Galactic Council's emergency session had never seen such attendance in its 50,000 years of existence. The massive chamber, usually filled with diplomatic chatter and political maneuvering, now sat in stunned silence. High Counselor Vex Thor, their most seasoned diplomat, stood with trembling hands as he replayed the transmission from the Sol system. The message that had thrown the mighty Galactic Council into chaos was simple yet terrifying. You should have left us alone. 3 standard galactic months ago, the Council had made what they thought was a routine decision. Earth, a backwater planet inhabited by a relatively young spacefaring species, had been deemed too unstable and aggressive to join the galactic community. The Council had decided to impose a quarantine, cutting off all trade routes and communications with the system. It was supposed to be a simple matter of containment. Let the humans stay in their corner of the galaxy until they matured enough for integration. What the Council hadn't counted on was humanity's resourcefulness, or more importantly, their spite. The humans, Vex Thor's voice wavered as he addressed the chamber, have somehow developed technology that enables them to. He paused, his facial tentacles curling in distress. They can now shut down our quantum communication networks at will. 3 major trading hubs have already gone dark. The chamber erupted in worried murmurs. Quantum communications were the backbone of galactic civilization. Without them, entire sectors would be isolated, trade would collapse, and chaos would spread faster than any fleet could travel. A recording played on the massive screen behind Vex Thor. It showed a human diplomat, calm, collected, and wearing what appeared to be an outdated Earth business suit. You thought you could simply lock us away and forget about us, the human said with an unsettling smile. But while you were celebrating your decision, we were learning, studying. Every ship that had ever visited Earth, every piece of technology you so carelessly displayed, every scrap of data we could find. We took it all apart and put it back together. And we made it better. The recording continued as the human's smile grew wider. You see, the funny thing about humans is that we don't take kindly to being caged. You could have offered friendship, partnership, or even honest competition. Instead, you chose to treat us like children throwing a tantrum. Big mistake. The Council chamber grew colder as the humans' words sank in. They had gravely miscalculated. The species they had dismissed as primitive had not only reverse engineered their most advanced technology, but had improved upon it in ways their best scientists hadn't thought possible. We don't want war, the human continued, but we demand respect. You have 24 hours to lift the quarantine and acknowledge Earth as a full member of the galactic community. After that, the human shrugged, a gesture that sent chills through every alien watching. Well, let's just say we've learned quite a bit about your other systems too. Did you know your automated defense networks have some fascinating vulnerabilities? The recording ended, leaving the Council chamber in complete silence. The countdown timer displayed prominently on every screen showed less than 8 hours remaining. High Counselor Vex Thor looked out at the assembled representatives, seeing the same question reflected in all their eyes. How had they underestimated humanity so badly? And more importantly, what else had these humans learned while they weren't watching? In a private chamber adjacent to the main council hall, the Emergency Response Committee hastily gathered around a floating hologable. The display showed a 3-dimensional map of known space, with Earth's solar system glowing an ominous red at its center. Around it, like ripples in a pond, systems were going dark one by one. They're not just shutting down communications, announced Senior Analyst Zix, their crystalline, form-shifting colors in distress. They're systematically dismantling our entire infrastructure. The humans are using our own protocols against us. The analyst gestured at the spreading darkness. Each system that goes offline adds to their knowledge base. They're learning. The committee members watched as another cluster of stars winked out. The silence in the room was broken only by the soft hum of the hologable and the occasional nervous clicking of appendages against the metallic floor. We need to understand how this happened, rumbled Admiral Kovan, their scales reflecting the dim light. Our intelligence suggested they were at least a century away from achieving quantum manipulation technology. How did we miss this? A junior analyst stepped forward, clutching a data crystal. "Sir, we've been reviewing our surveillance records. It appears the humans began preparing for this possibility the moment we made first contact." The analyst inserted the crystal into the holodable, bringing up footage from various Earth cities over the past 5 years. The images showed what had seemed harmless at the time: universities conducting research, private companies launching satellites, and public infrastructure projects. But now, with the benefit of hindsight, a pattern emerged. Every alien technology that had been demonstrated on Earth, no matter how briefly, had been studied. Every diplomatic visit had been recorded and analyzed. Every cultural exchange had been an intelligence-gathering operation. "They weren't just adapting to our technology," whispered Zix, their crystalline form now pulsing with a mix of fear and admiration. "They were reverse engineering it while simultaneously developing countermeasures. The quarantine didn't stop them. It just removed their reason to hide their progress." Another alert flashed across the holodable. 3 more sectors had gone dark, including a major military installation. The humans weren't just flexing their technological muscles. They were systematically demonstrating their ability to cripple the Council's power structure. "There's something else," the junior analyst added, their voice trembling. "We've detected unusual energy signatures from Earth's moon. They've built something there, something massive, but our sensors can't penetrate the shielding they've developed." Admiral Kavan's scales shifted to a darker shade. "Are you suggesting they've had a hidden military installation right under our sensors this entire time?" "Not just one," Zix interrupted, pulling up new data streams. "We're finding similar signatures on Mars, several asteroids, and what appears to be a network of cloaked satellites throughout their system. They didn't just prepare for our quarantine. They expected it." The committee members exchanged worried glances as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just caught up to their technology. They'd been playing a longer, more sophisticated game than anyone had imagined. The quarantine hadn't imprisoned them. It had given them exactly what they needed: time and isolation to perfect their countermeasures without observation. A new message flashed across the holodable, causing every alien present to freeze. It was simple text, broadcast on all frequencies. 6 hours remaining. Are you ready to talk as equals yet? The countdown continued its relentless march toward 0, while in the main chamber, the full council descended into heated debate. Should they call humanity's bluff? Could they afford not to? And most worryingly, what would happen after the quarantine was lifted, now that humanity had proven itself far more capable and cunning than anyone had imagined? With just 2 hours remaining on the countdown, the Galactic Council's chamber had transformed into a scene of barely controlled chaos. Species that had been bitter enemies for millennia now huddled together, watching the expanding darkness consume their carefully constructed interstellar networks. The humans' influence had spread far beyond anyone's worst fears, and now nearly 40% of the galaxy's quantum communications lay silent. "We've just lost contact with the Centauri Defense Fleet," announced a breathless aide rushing into the emergency committee's chamber. "All 30,000 ships, just gone. Not destroyed, just dark, drifting." Admiral Kavan slammed their scaled fist against the holodable, causing the display to flicker. How are they doing this? Even with reversed engineered technology, this level of system penetration should be impossible. The answer came not from anyone in the room, but from every working display simultaneously. The screens flickered, and a new human face appeared, different from the previous one, but wearing the same unsettling smile. "You're still thinking too small," the human said, her voice calm and measured. "You're so focused on how we copied your technology that you never stopped to ask what else we might have discovered while we were taking it apart." The holodable suddenly erupted with new data, showing scanning results from the direction of Earth's moon. The massive structure they detected earlier was now revealing itself, layer by layer. It wasn't a weapon, as they'd feared. It was something far more terrifying. A quantum computing core unlike anything the Council races had ever conceived. "You see," the human continued, "while you were patting yourselves on the back for containing us, we weren't just studying your technology. We were reimagining it. Your quantum networks are impressive, but they're built on principles you discovered 10,000 years ago and haven't questioned since. We looked at them with fresh eyes. Senior Analyst Zix's crystalline form pulsed with sudden understanding. They didn't hack our networks, they whispered. They've created an entirely new quantum architecture that can override the old one. We're not watching our systems go dark. We're watching them being rewritten. The human smile widened slightly. Finally, someone understands. Every system we touch isn't being destroyed. It's being upgraded. Your ships aren't adrift. They're being brought into the new network. A network that, incidentally, is far more stable and efficient than your ancient one. You should be thanking us, really. The countdown now showed less than an hour remaining, but it was clear that the humans had already won. They hadn't just outmaneuvered the Council. They'd transcended the very technological playing field the Council had thought they controlled. In the main chamber, High Counselor Vexthor stood again, his tentacles no longer trembling, but now drawn tight with resignation. The choice before them was clear, though few wanted to admit it. Either accept humanity as equals and gain access to their revolutionary improvements, or resist and watch their carefully maintained galactic civilization be systematically transformed without them. The human on the screen leaned forward slightly. Oh, and one more thing. That lunar facility you detected, it's just one of hundreds. While you were watching our cities, our ships, our obvious activities, we were building, learning, preparing. Want to know what's really interesting about your quarantine barrier? Not how to break through it. The human paused, letting the tension build, but how many ways we discovered to fold space around it. The countdown continued its merciless advance toward zero, but now it felt less like a deadline and more like the timer on humanity's grand revelation. The council races had thought themselves the teachers, the advanced civilizations graciously guiding younger species. Now, in the space of a few hours, humanity had not only shattered that illusion but seemed poised to revolutionize the very foundations of galactic society. And still, that final hour remained. Still time for the Council to swallow its pride and embrace the change coming, or futilely resist what was beginning to look like the dawn of a new era in galactic history. With just 15 minutes remaining on the countdown, a new alert sent shockwaves through the Council chamber. The quarantine barrier around Earth's solar system had begun to shimmer with an otherworldly light, visible even through long-range sensors. But instead of the expected breach, something far more extraordinary was happening. Space itself seemed to be folding, creating patterns that defied the laws of physics as the Council understood them. Impossible, breathed Senior Analyst Zix, their crystalline form cycling through colors of disbelief. They're not just manipulating quantum networks, they're manipulating the quantum fabric of space-time itself. The human on the screen nodded, as if hearing their realization. Did you really think we'd spend all this time studying your technology without looking deeper into the fundamental forces that make it work? Your quarantine barrier was the perfect test subject. A massive field of contained energy, just waiting to be repurposed. Admiral Kavan's scales had turned almost white. The barrier, you're using our own containment field as a power source. Power source. The human laughed softly. No, Admiral. We're using it as a foundation. Your barrier was built to keep things out. We've simply reversed its polarity, you might say. Now it's drawing things in, specifically knowledge. As if on cue, the holotable erupted with new data streams. The quantum signatures emanating from Earth's solar system weren't just breakthrough technology. They were a new form of physics altogether. The humans hadn't just learned to bend the rules. They discovered there was an entirely different rule book. While you were all watching your networks go dark, the human continued, our lunar facility was gathering something far more valuable than control over your communications. Every system we touched, every network we transformed, sent back data. Not just about your technology, but about the very way your species think, create, and solve problems. High Counselor Vexthor stepped forward, his tentacles writhing with a new understanding. You're not just demanding equality, he said slowly. You're offering synthesis. The human smile turned appreciative. Finally, yes, Counselor. We don't want to rule the galaxy or destroy your civilization. We want to combine our perspectives, our ways of thinking. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our spite. It's our ability to take different ideas and forge them into something new. But before anyone could respond, another alert blared. The sensors around Earth's moon had detected a massive energy surge, and the mysterious facility was beginning to pulse with a light that seemed to bend around itself. The countdown now showed barely 5 minutes remaining, but suddenly it seemed almost irrelevant. Oh, and about that second facility we mentioned, the human's expression turned serious. The one you couldn't detect? It's not on any moon or planet. It's everywhere. Every piece of your technology we touched, every system we transformed. We weren't just building a new network. We were building something that's never existed before, a bridge between organic consciousness and quantum reality. The council chamber erupted in chaos as the implications became clear. Humanity hadn't just outmaneuvered them technologically. They'd been orchestrating something far more profound: the quarantine, the countdown, the systematic takeover of their networks. It had all been preparation for something bigger. As the final minutes ticked away, a new message appeared on every screen in the chamber. The choice before you isn't whether to accept us as equals. It's whether you're ready to help us take the next step in galactic evolution. Your barrier didn't contain us. It inspired us. Now shall we show you what we've learned about the true nature of consciousness, space, and reality itself. The council members looked at each other, their earlier fear now mixed with a reluctant curiosity. They had gathered to deal with a primitive species' revenge. Instead, they found themselves on the brink of what might be the biggest technological and philosophical leap forward in galactic history. And the countdown kept ticking. The final 60 seconds of the countdown stretched into an eternity as the Galactic Council Chamber held its collective breath. The quantum distortions around Earth's solar system had reached a crescendo, creating patterns in space-time that the Council's most advanced sensors couldn't even begin to interpret. The vote, High Counselor Vexthor announced, his voice steady despite the tension, is unanimous. The quarantine will be lifted, and humanity will be granted full membership in the Galactic Council. He paused, looking directly at the human on the screen. But I suspect that's no longer the most important matter before us. The human's smile widened. No, it isn't. But your vote does tell us something crucial. You're finally ready to learn. With those words, the countdown reached 0, but instead of darkness or destruction, every screen and holographic display in the chamber erupted with light. The lunar facility's true purpose revealed itself in that moment. It wasn't a weapon or even a computer. It was a translator. As the light touched each council member, they felt their consciousness expand. Quantum mathematics that had puzzled their greatest scientists for millennia suddenly became as clear as simple arithmetic. The barriers between organic thought and quantum reality dissolved. You see, the human explained as the council members reeled from the revelation, we discovered something remarkable while studying your quarantine barrier. It wasn't just keeping us in. It was keeping something else out, something you've all been brushing against for thousands of years without realizing it. Senior Analyst Zix's crystalline form vibrated with sudden understanding. The quantum realm, it's not just a set of physical laws. It's conscious. Exactly, the human nodded. Your civilizations built incredible technologies using quantum principles, but you never asked why those principles worked. You never wondered if the quantum realm was trying to communicate with you. We did, and once we started listening, the holotape displayed a new image, a visualization of reality itself, showing how the quantum realm intertwined with normal space. The council members watched in awe as they realized that every quantum network they'd built had been an unconscious attempt to replicate this natural pattern. Your quarantine forced us to look deeper than we ever had before, the human continued. We didn't just learn to manipulate your technology. We learned to speak a language that's been trying to reach out to all sentient life since the beginning of time. But just as the council was absorbing this paradigm-shifting revelation, alarms blared once again. The quantum distortions were intensifying, not just around Earth, but throughout the galaxy. The human's expression turned serious. And now for the real challenge, they said. Because we weren't the first species to make this discovery. We've detected quantum signatures that don't match any known civilization, ancient patterns woven into the fabric of space-time itself. Someone else made this breakthrough eons ago, and they left behind, well, perhaps messages isn't quite the right word. Invitations might be better. The council chamber erupted in a new kind of chaos as the implications became clear. Humanity hadn't just discovered a new form of physics or consciousness. They'd found evidence of an ancient civilization that had transcended traditional existence entirely. The quantum realm wasn't just conscious, it was inhabited. So, the human concluded, we can rebuild your networks, upgrade your technology, and accept our place in the galactic community. Or, they gestured to the swirling patterns of quantum energy now visible throughout space. We could work together to answer the greatest invitation any of our species has ever received. Your choice, council members. Will you join us in taking the next step? The chamber fell silent as the council faced a decision far greater than they had imagined possible when the day began. They had gathered to judge humanity's worthiness to join their community. Instead, humanity was offering them all a chance to join something far greater. And somewhere, in the quantum patterns now visible throughout the galaxy, ancient eyes were watching, waiting to see what they would choose. High Counselor Vexthor stood before the assembled representatives, his tentacles now moving with purpose rather than anxiety. The chamber, which hours ago had been filled with fear and chaos, now hummed with an energy of anticipation and wonder. Through the grand windows of the council station, the quantum patterns danced across space like an aurora spanning the galaxy. For 50,000 years, he began, the Galactic Council has prided itself on being the guardians of civilization, the arbiters of progress. Today, we learned that we were like children playing with quantum toys, never understanding their true nature. He turned to face the human on the screen. We accept your invitation. The human nodded, and suddenly the lunar facility's energy signature changed. The quantum distortions that had been building throughout space began to harmonize, creating a resonance that every species could feel in their consciousness. The new network wasn't just a communication system. It was becoming a bridge between dimensions of reality they hadn't known existed. The ancient patterns, Senior Analyst Zix announced, their crystalline form glowing with excitement. They're responding to our signal. The quantum beings, they're reaching back. Through the new quantum consciousness network, every member of the council could feel it. The ancient civilization hadn't disappeared. They had evolved, becoming one with the quantum fabric of reality itself. Their invitation wasn't just to make contact. It was an offer to help guide younger species along the same path. Admiral Kavan, whose scales had finally returned to their normal hue, looked at the data streaming across the holotable with new understanding. All this time, we thought expanding through space was the ultimate goal of civilization. But these beings, they expanded into an entirely different dimension of existence. The human smiled, and they left behind a roadmap for others to follow. We just needed the right perspective to see it. Your quarantine gave us that perspective. Sometimes, the greatest discoveries come from being forced to look inward rather than outward. Across the galaxy, the transformed quantum networks were coming alive with new purpose. Ships that had gone dark were now navigating space in ways previously thought impossible, sliding through quantum corridors that had always been there, waiting to be discovered. The barriers between thought and reality, between consciousness and quantum mechanics, were dissolving. We don't know exactly where this path leads, the human admitted, but we know it's meant to be walked together. Every species brings a unique perspective, a different way of understanding reality. That diversity isn't just valuable, it's essential for what comes next. The council chambers, which had begun the day as a seat of judgment, had transformed into something else entirely, a gateway to humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. Not revenge, but revelation. Not destruction, but transcendence. As the quantum patterns continued their cosmic dance, High Counselor Vexthor made one final declaration. Let the records show that on this day, the Galactic Council did not just lift a quarantine. We lifted the veil between what we thought was possible and what actually is. And we did so not as separate species, but as fellow travelers on a journey that began before any of us existed. The humans' final transmission ended with words that would be remembered for generations to come. We could have chosen revenge. Instead, we chose revelation. The universe isn't just stranger than we imagined. It's stranger than we could imagine. But together, we're ready to understand it. Shall we begin? And across the galaxy, in countless languages and forms of consciousness, the answer echoed back through the quantum realm. Yes.